welcome to 5 Minutes a Day. And what we've been noticing, there's a theme with Luke, right? The theme is that Jesus came for everyone. And the theme is also that Jesus' teachings were unlike any other, and they were radical. Right? So I encourage you, if you didn't watch Fridays, to watch Fridays, because today is a part B of it. And so what happened was, a man came to Jesus, a teacher, and he was trying to trick Jesus, and he said, "Who is my neighbor?" Because really, he wanted to know the minimum of what it took to follow Jesus. And so in that culture, his equivalent of a neighbor was a male Jewish man. And so that's what he wanted to make sure, that I only have to love people that are like me, another Jewish male. So let's see what Jesus says. And so he responded by a parable, and this parable is very famous. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan. So we're going to jump right in to Luke 30. So join me. In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, where he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil on wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to the inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.' Which of the 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The expert in the law said, "The one who had mercy on him." And Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." All right, let's break down this parable. So a couple things to just realize as Jesus told this story is the road from Jerusalem down to Jericho dropped about 3,000 feet, and it was through rugged terrain. So often as they went through there, especially they would caravan. They wouldn't go by themselves because it was very dangerous. And sometimes robbers would lay in wait in the terrain for travelers to come. So the first person who came was a priest. And again, we kind of have to give the priests some leeway, right? Because again, according to the law, if the priest touched this man who looked to be dead, he would be ceremoniously unclean. So he wouldn't be able to go do his job. Again, let's remember though, Jesus did that, right? Remember in a couple stories we saw where Jesus became ceremoniously unclean by touching those who were sick, and by touching the demons, and by touching the coffin, right? But this man did have a point, and he couldn't go do his job for God, right? And then the same way with the Levi, he was assistant priest. So if he would become ceremoniously unclean, he couldn't perform his duties either. All right, so then here comes the Samaritan, and this is a plot twist, right? Because the Samaritans and the Jews hated each other, and the Jews really hated the Samaritans. So you could think of the Samaritan, and he could look down and say, "This man maybe wouldn't want me to help him," right? I mean, think about it in our terms. Think about if it was maybe a KKK man, right, with a former slave, and he's looking on that KKK man wouldn't want me to touch him, right? Or we think of the horrific time when with the Nazis, and then a Jewish person, again, they would think, "Oh, that person wouldn't want me to touch them," right? So this is a plot twist. And you could just see the people as Jesus telling the story, a Samaritan? Not even one of us. Right? So the moral of this parable, it shows that true neighbors love even their enemies. True neighbors love even their enemies, even people who have hated on them. That's the God's love that we have. And authentic spirituality is not based on ethnic identity. Again, that's what Jesus was saying. It's not enough just that you're from this tribe of Israel. It's not enough that you're a Jew. He's calling them to a deeper level of commitment. And so it's all based on their love for God and their love for others because of their relationship through Jesus. So the challenge that I have for you is, who are you in this story? Who are you in this story? And if we're honest, we take turns, right, being these different characters. Sometimes, if we're honest, we're the man that is hurt on the side of the road. We're in need of help. We are in need of someone to come and show mercy to us. We are in need of someone to show compassion and to get their hands dirty and to help us out. And sometimes that's hard, right, to receive from other people. And sometimes we're the priest and the Levite, that we are so busy doing things for God that we aren't able to do things for God, right? And then lastly, my prayer is that we are sometimes the Good Samaritan, that we are the people that would stand and love those who are different from us and show Christ's compassion to them. So when I was about 20 years old, my friend and I decided we were going to go on a trip to Canada. This was before cell phones, this was before Google Maps, and we just called our friend and said, "Can we come visit you?" And she said yes, and we literally made the decision to go the next day. So off we are, and we don't realize that California is different than other states. Like, you can't get a gas station every, 20 or 15 miles or so. So here we are at 2 o'clock in the morning. We are on the side of the road of a really lonely, desolate road in Idaho. And we ran out of gas. And we were panicking. And this looks like a scene from Criminal Minds, right? And we didn't know what to do. We didn't know how far the town was. We didn't know to start walking. And we just were kind of stuck there on the side of the road. And this girl came by, and she drove by, and she approached us, and she said, "Wow, you are so lucky, because no one comes on the side of the road through this road at night." She goes, "I was at my boyfriend's house, and we had a fight, so that's why I'm heading home." So she took us in her car and drove us into this town, and she knew the person who owned the local gas station, and she got us gas, and she brought us back to our car. But what was interesting, as we were leaving, so both my friend and I are women of color, and so as we were leaving, the man at the gas station looked at us, and he said, "You need to leave, because we don't have people. We don't have your kind in our town." And he said it really angry, and he was just kind of looked up and down at us and said, like, "Get out of here." And as I always refer back to that story, when I told this story, I usually either point out how God provided for us, right, to keep us from being a scene on Criminal Minds, and sent this woman who happened to have a fight with her boyfriend to come and literally rescue us. But then sometimes I camp on the hurt that I felt, how it cut me, because I had never really experienced racism before, and how this person wanted me out and my friend out of his town just because of the color of our skin. But you know what? I never thought about, what about that girl? What about that young woman who she was raised in that environment? And she could have pulled over on the side of the road, and as we rolled our window, she could have saw that we were brown, and she could have kept going. But she took time to let us in her car to go find the person who owned the gas station and to have mercy on us and get us gas so that we can go on our way. And so my challenge to you is go and do likewise. Amen. See you tomorrow.